Well, there's so much to talk about on Cricbuzz Live. Everything, of course, happening in the city of Mumbai. We are building up to a game at the DY Patil Stadium. But meanwhile, there's been an arrest warrant out for anyone who belongs to the city of Delhi, because they have just entered the city of Mumbai and stolen a game that for the longest time rightfully belonged to the home side, if you like. And it's just finished as we've talked about it. Delhi have beaten Mumbai. They've chased down a target when the cream of their batting was sitting with their pads off. Let me get a quick reaction straight off the top from my panelists, Ajay Jadeja and Shaun Pollock. Shaun, where did that come from?
Yeah, but surprised. I think the steady wickets in all the overs tend to suggest that Mumbai would win convincingly. But Lalit Yadav, wow, what an innings he's played. I don't know too much about his background, but he stood up and he's been counted. And Delhi have, as you say, they've grabbed victory from the jaws of defeat. They really have played superbly well in the back end. And that's the nature of T20 cricket. I haven't been overly impressed by what I've seen bowling-wise at the back end from the Mumbai Indians. And Jasprit Bumrah having an off day. I called it at the start of this innings to say, he'll just do his business. He'll be fantastic. But not one of his best.
I think what will please Delhi the most, I mean, it's one of those things, Prithvi Shaw comes, gets 100, you're like, okay, business as usual. But the businessmen were gone. Prithvi was gone. Rovman Powell was gone for nothing. We talked about it on Cricbuzz Combox. The cream is gone. Can Akshar Patel do it? He did, along with Lalit Yadav.
Yeah, exceptional. I mean, you're right, Ab. The power was gone. The generator came on. Shardul Thakur, started the whole thing and then he left. But there was an inverter at the end. Akshar Patel, how much has he grown as a player? Last couple of years, every opportunity that he's got. I think they didn't give up. And I think the best thing for Delhi that's happened is, they've carried on playing their style from last year. Had they lost this game at the start of the season, you might have started thinking, should we change something or should we not? But now that they've, taken it through and they still have a couple of players who have to come in and make this team even a better side, I mean, at least skill-wise. So, Delhi would be chuffed with this win. Mumbai will have to think a lot again about their bowling.
Ajay, you talked about the guy from Jamnagar, of course, who didn't do his job yesterday as such. But Bapu, as in Akshar Patel, has done it for Delhi.
Yeah, and when you do it, you're called Bapu anyway. So Akshar Patel has done I think skill-wise, yes, we see what they did and what they hit. But just to believe at that stage, at over number 10, that they can win from there. And like Shaun said earlier, at that stage, you thought it's Mumbai's game to win. And I think it's Shardul Thakur's that little cameo that he started it. And then Akshar Patel played along. And Lalit Yadav, you got to give him credit. Poor fellow's been around IPL for a long time. Bowls a couple of overs here and there. Comes to bat at times that there isn't opportunity. But I think today is a day that it probably seals that Mandeep will be out. And, Lalit Yadav would certainly make it throughout the tournament.
Of course, he's got all-round abilities. But I think that the analogy that summed up the entire game was what Ajay Jadeja said about having a power cut. Especially if you come from India, you understand what it means. And we compensate for power cuts with generators as well as inverters. If you're in your house, you have this little battery pack, Shaun, which we called an inverter. You just switch it on, a few lights and few fans work and keep you going. And that's pretty much what happened when Shaw goes and Seifert goes and Powell goes. It's pretty much a power cut as far as the run chase was concerned.
Oh, you don't have to tell me about it. Load shedding. We've been having load shedding since 2008. It's an absolute nightmare here in South Africa. We hate it. But yeah, you got to keep the power going. And when you say the power, it was just the belief. You just felt like they didn't believe they were done and that there was still something to come. And they showed it in some exquisite hitting. I mean, it was in many ways, it felt like it was risk-free. I know some of the deliveries were easy to put away. With the length and some of the pace taken off. But it didn't look like they were really under any stress. I mean, even when it was 10, 11 and over. And as AJ says, I mean, you think of those two international batters would probably be replaced when your Warner and Marsh come back. You add the Fizz or Nortje or Ngidi into their bowling lineups. And all of a sudden, you've got guys who on the peripheries of the squad who've performed in the first match. And things are looking pretty good. That Safat is dismissal. As it was going down, I was like, don't look to cut that. That's the other one. And then it just was a fantastic delivery.
Well, yeah, that was the time when Mumbai were on a high with Murugan Ashwin coming on inside the power play. But yeah, our graphics guys have been working overtime. They just got this wonderful end plate ready. Mumbai won by 31 runs or whatever it could have ended up being, but everything's turned upside down. This is the final result of the game, folks. If you're a Mumbai fan, look away for the moment. Unless you believe in the theory that Mumbai lose first game, it doesn't really matter. That's what you've got to live on for the moment. 177 for 5 in 20 overs. Delhi somehow chasing it down towards the end. 179 for 6. Lalit Yadav, 48 of 38 deliveries. No, they didn't do it in 10 overs. Ignore that. 38 for Prithvi Shaw and 38 not out for Akshar Patel. The one name missing in there is Shardul Thakur, who, as Ajay said, is the one who started off this belief towards the end of the innings. So Bapu and the Lord, along with Lalit, do it for Delhi. That's as far as game one is concerned. All we have time for is to just hold our breaths and start talking about game number 2, because the action has begun there in terms of the toss. It's Punjab, a new captain, Mayank Agarwal, taking on Faf du Plessis, a new captain for Bangalore. And it's the side from the southern part of the country who will be batting first after losing the toss. Let's quickly go to the playing 11s, because, of course, we're going to have once again unfamiliar-looking setups. Punjab, the likes of Shikhar Dhawan in there. Let's have a look at that. Mayank Agarwal, Shikhar Dhawan, so powerful it looks. Add to that Liam Livingston, Shah Rukh Khan, Odin Smith coming down the order, Ajay. A few more names maybe we'll get in there as the season goes on. Bhanuka Rajapaksa, the one I wasn't quite expecting to see early on, because Bairstow's not there, remember, Ajay?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's why they've gone with him when Bairstow's ready. He comes in, and so they're probably thinking ahead, not looking at this game. Where I feel is that's why probably the bowling is slightly. Sandeep Sharma has done exceptionally well over the years, but what happens is when you're a one-dimensional bowler or you have certain kind of skills, people do tend to read you and play you much better at that stage. So if Sandeep Sharma goes well, then this looks like a solid side again. I'm looking forward to Mayank Agarwal and Shikhar Dhawan playing, both fighting for that same spot for India. Or Shikhar Dhawan has been around the world. He's been to every team in the IPL. I think there are only 2 or 3 teams left, but he's got a point to prove. So it's a good side, but in fact, I would say when you look at that side last year, it had much more power in that. It had Nicholas Puran including in that, Adrian Markham, KL Rahul. So from that point of view, but somehow I have a feeling about Punjab this year. They look better, as a unit, not as individuals when you take them out. And I think Anil's got a couple of tricks up his sleeve this year. So I'm going to watch this team very closely.
Yeah, a couple of big names who are going to slot in there. Kagiso Rabada, I think, is going to be leading the pack as far as names due to come in. Shaun, I think, it has the makings of it. Everyone talked about them having a good auction. Now it's a matter, and again, the counter to that is they've had good auctions before. Now it's a matter of making it count.
Yeah, I think they've always been a team on the peripheries. They've had the odd good season, but they're looking for consistency. They're looking for something to write home about, if you're totally honest. And they'll put the foot in the right direction by the players that they've got into the mix. Someone like a Rabada will definitely strengthen that bowling and give them a bit of an edge at the back end of innings. But it is a case point at some stage you've got to perform. You've got to get yourself into the knockout phase of the tournament. But when you have a regroup, all you can do at the start is get a personnel that you feel can gel together as a team, and they seem to have done that.
Now, so far, for most of the teams in our previews, at least we just had 2 games, we have looked at the fact that maybe bowling is an area of concern. I wonder, Ajay, if you might look at the Bangalore lineup and say the same thing, because for a change, at least on paper, it appears to have the makings of a very potent bowling attack. Hasaranga, Harshal Patel, David Willey, the experience, Mohammad Siraj picks up wickets. So with these 4, and of course add Shabazz to the mix, it seems to have the makings of a decent bowling lineup.
Yeah, they do, certainly. And Mohammad Siraj is somebody I'm looking forward to, an attacking bowler, because the kind of surfaces that are being provided. Hasaranga, I know everybody's gung-ho about him. Virat Kohli wanted him right after that first series as well. And everybody rates him very highly. But the kind of wickets that we've seen in this tournament, I'm only going by the 2 games that we've seen, and I presume the first few games would be like that. I don't know whether he'll be as effective here as he was for Sri Lanka. Similar to what, Shardul Thakur, we were talking about the other game, that, you play a certain role in a certain side. If that's not the role here, sometimes, the same bowlers, don't tend to do that well. So Hasaranga, I'm, one of those. I hope I'm wrong again, because, he's a talented player. He's done well for Sri Lanka. But will he be able to, take charge of that bowling attack? Because Harshal Patel is, your bank, but that bank is very late. It doesn't open early in the morning. It's not the first 10, 12 overs that he comes in. It's the bank opens after 12 overs. So he's always fighting to, pull you back into the game. Or if somebody's got off to a great start, he can do that. But I feel that, in IPLs, at the start of the tournament and at the end of the tournament, the pressure's on. It's the first part of the game that you have some choice, or the opposition has to think. When you get to the last end, then the scoreboard decides. So I'm a little wary of that bowling attack as yet.
Every time Ajay keeps saying things like that, it just reminds me of life in Goa. Everything starts after 12 o'clock.
2:30.
Okay, 2:30, even later than that. That's fine. Oh, yeah. But Shaun, two people I want to talk about. The obvious one being the captain, the new captain of RCB. But before that, very quickly, we talk about all the players who come out of the Caribbean being flamboyant. The Gales, the Russells, the Bravos, even a Shimron Hetmeyer. But the two guys who are the opposite, one a Rovman Powell, we saw he didn't quite perform in the afternoon. The other, Shafane Rutherford. Doesn't have the flamboyance of the Caribbean boys, but he certainly can be very, very effective in the middle there.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to be. I mean, when you look at that batting lineup, I think of all the RCB batting lineups we've seen over the years, it doesn't quite hit you. I know AB de Villiers has got to come out of quarantine. No, I'm only joking. He's no longer there. But, I mean, the depth that they've had over the years, you got Dinesh Karthik in the mix now, Shahbaz Ahmed. Yes, they can all play their part, but it's not that firepower like we've seen in the years gone by. That's why that top of the order combination. And that's why I'm saying Shafane Rutherford. I don't mind. I want someone who's going to be a little bit more consistent for them in the middle rather than fireworks, because as you can see, there's not a massive amount of hitability to them. Hasaranga, Chahal for me was always the key to this Bangalore bowling lineup. Obviously, he's no longer there, so Hasaranga needs to step up. But it looks a little bit underdone for me. In the years gone by, they've had massive players, massive names, and hitability, but they've never managed to win. So maybe the new look under Faf du Plessis, maybe the captaincy off the shoulders, Virat Kohli, comes good. We'll have to check it out.
Well, just finish that point, Shaun. Yeah, go ahead, Ajay.
Sorry, no, I said Anuj Rawat, somebody I really admire. I mean, the way he walks on the ground. I haven't seen so much of him, but whatever glimpses that I've had, this is a man to watch out.
Yeah, we talked about Tilak Verma, Anuj Rawat. These are the little names to watch out for. But yeah, the personality of that top order of a Maxwell, a de Villiers, a Kohli, all together in that one top order, when that's been separated, something seems to have changed. But let's finish off this show with talking about the South African from the South African. Faf du Plessis, he's got no international distractions, as it were, unlike many of the other players. How much is that going to help him? And of course, the leadership.
Yeah, I think it will. And obviously, when Glenn Maxwell comes back, I think that'll be important for him as well, to have him in the mix and talking strategies. But, he was a good captain for South Africa. And as you say, with the fact that he's not going to have the cluttered mind of international cricket, he can give full focus to this. And he can be inventive at times and normally pretty calm and under the pressure. So I'll be interested to see how he goes. I just wonder what his relationship is with some of the guys, never having worked with them, never having played with them. That's the buy-in you need to get quickly as a captain in these formats. You need to get them under your wings and make them believe in your strategies and what you want to do and earn their confidence. And that usually comes quickly by what you do in the first 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he contributes with the bat. He tends to be somebody who gets along with everyone. I saw that in the CPL when he suddenly sneaked in there as captain, and suddenly it looked like he'd been captaining the franchise forever. That's the kind of guy Francois du Plessis is. But him as a batsman as well will play a big role. Now, with Bangalore batting first, we don't know too much about the DY Patil surface at the moment. We'll only judge surfaces once it's been played on. But going blind, Ajay, how much are you going for? 187?
Yeah, absolutely. Blind, at least stick to one number. Shaun, don't laugh. We have a saying in India. We have a saying, even if you're wrong, twice a day that time shows the same time. So, I just stick to one. It's blind anyway. I don't know what the wicket is like, what they're going to play like. So, till we get into the tournament, it's 187.
Okay. Well, I've played a few games there in my time. DY Patel, that was one of our home grounds when I was with the Mumbai Indians. So my experience on this ground tells me 167.
All right, so we'll stick to the sevens then. I had a winner with 177. I'm going to pick that horse again, and I'm going to stick in with the same number using Ajay's formula. So 167, 177, 187. So there we go. That's the kind of range we hope, we expect, we think. We don't know. It's Punjab against Bangalore. One more reminder, big upset, at least if you look at it from the point of view of where the game stood for much of the duration. Mumbai have lost their opening game. Delhi have pulled it out of the fire, and Delhi and Kolkata with wins in the first two games. What's going to happen in game number 3? We'll assess how it's progressing in the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. And of course, a gentle reminder, if you want to switch over and watch along with us, Match Party is on Cricbuzz Plus. So much happening around the Cricbuzz family. We'll see you soon on Cricbuzz Combox. For now, that's all from Ajay, Shaun and myself on Cricbuzz Live.